Hey, welcome to Soundings with Sash. How'd you like my intro? Let me know in the comments what you thought of that one. I love that one. I think it makes you get grooving and all that fun stuff. So anyway, I'm so excited tonight. Well, maybe not excited about the topic about having a co-host with me, Matt Haas, and I'm so excited about this. And we're going to be talking about conflict resolution. And to be honest, I'm going to let him share how him and I have already had some conflict and some conflict resolution. How about that? Hi, Matt.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, everyone out there in YouTube land.
Hey, everybody. Oh, my goodness. Look at who's here in the house.
I was pushing this stream hard. I was trying to bring some peoples in here.
Jason, Nora. Oh, my goodness. All the favorites are in the house. How are you doing? Say hello if you joined us. So anyway, Matt, you and I had a conflict this week.
We did.
We did.
Yes. We butted heads.
How did we solve it? That's what I want to know.
I provided some technical information and more importantly, why the technical information was needed. And
please share.
Bada boom, bada bing, it was solved.
I know. He is amazing, you guys. You have to check out his YouTube channel, All Things YouTube. He's amazing. All I did was do one little click of a button and it changed my whole world. So just letting you know. And I didn't do this. See my thing? I ain't doing it is what it says. I don't know if it's if it's reversed or not.
Should I describe what the technical issue was?
Yes, please do. Please share, because these people that are watching need to know this.
Yeah, this is common. I see a lot of people make this mistake. When you have a scheduled live stream on YouTube as a public page, the page is, of course, public. If people search for the live stream in the Google search bar, it will show up. However, it will not show up on your home page. Your home page is a collection of shelves, and you default to having just the upload shelf. So you get a Gmail account, you launch a YouTube channel, you go to your home page, you get the upload shelf. You have to put other shelves on that home page. There's also a videos tab on the home page. The videos tab does not, I repeat, does not show upcoming live streams. And upcoming live streams are absent by default on your YouTube homepage. You have to go into customization and add a shelf that is upcoming live streams, and then someone can land on your channel and find it. Sandy published this video a week ago, but no one could find it.
Nobody saw it. Right.
Sandy,
they can't click on it.
Give me the URL of the page. And she didn't give me the URL of the page. She goes, it's there. I'm like, I don't believe you. Prove it to me. It's not there.
He said, I don't believe you. And I was so offended at first. I was like, you don't believe me? What? So I thought we were better friends than that. Hi, Whit. Hi, everybody joining.
Hi. I kept asking for the URL, and she kept giving me things that weren't the URL. I'm like, if I have to ask you one more time for this URL, and you come back with the response that isn't the URL, I was going to flip out. Now, of course, I don't flip out. I love Sandy. Sandy's the best. But, I'm like, look, try this. And I did a little screen share, and I'm like, go here, go here, go here, bada boom, bada bing. And then it will be, and I told her why, you don't just say, you got to do this, but not give reasons why. Like I explained that it was.
He was so cool. He even sent me a video, you guys. Yeah. Like he sent me a video to go, okay, click here, do this, do that, which was amazing. So thank you, Matt, Mr. Genius. Exactly what Rich said. Genius. So appreciate it. So you want Matt in your corner. If you're a live streamer, he's the dude. You got to get him in your corner and support him. Please, everybody, go subscribe to his channels like right now. So anyway, there we go. He needs more subscribers. So everybody go. So I appreciate you being on here about, it was hilarious that this was the subject matter and the conflict didn't come up until after the subject matter was picked. So it was really funny. It was actually ironic. Irony to the best. Now, show them your shirt, Matt.
Oh yeah, I sell this shirt. It's my original design.
Oh, he sells it. Do what you want and ignore the haters. Now, what kind of conflict style would that be?
Irrelevant because they're being ignored.
And what kind of conflict style is my I ain't doing it? See, I could have told Matt, I ain't doing it. And then he would have went, I ain't going to be on your show. and then our teacher would have said, ain't a word, and you ain't got to say it because it ain't in the dictionary. Anyway, yeah. Enough of that. All right. So conflict resolution. I've had this come up many times, and I've also added this as a skill set team builder in one of my businesses, which is Sandy Archer Consulting. And I have this live streaming to there right now. I've added it because I've done some mediation work. As if you've ever been a manager, you've had to handle conflict resolution, right? Either between one employee, two employees, your whole team, whatever it is, you have had to deal with conflict resolution. And when I worked at the hospital, we had what it was called a code green. And if a code green is called, and if you're ever at the hospital, a code green means that there is a disruption with a patient or a visitor or something. So you would have to go to that room and handle the situation. And me being a manager, I would be the first one that would have to go and try to handle the situation. And if I couldn't handle it, then security had to come in. So you don't want a code green. I'm just going to say you don't want to call one. You don't want to be part of one. What's really funny is I was armed with, a notepad and a pen, and security's, armed with guns. So wow. I kind of don't understand. I'm the first front line, but what I was a really good diffuser of situations. So it was actually part of my skill set. I do actually, not that I like conflict resolution, but it is something that I've adapted to, and I kind of have always known how to handle a situation. So, let's see. Okay, so Rich says, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the passive aggressive. Oh, passive aggressive. Was that how we handled that situation?
Style. You asked what style something was, and
passive. Yes. It's getting Wit's talking to him. Okay. Hey, yeah, say hello. All right. So
now, can I just say the example you gave was party A and B were having a conflict, and you come in as party C and you try and do something like that. That is a particular use case, and a use case I suspect is not that common. Like the way I resolve conflict is conflict with me.
Right.
It's me and the other person. So that's where my mind is for this show.
Right. Okay. And that's great, because I want to hear your perspective on that. And then I'm going to show some slides in a minute when dealing with other people, the style on I've had a couple friends
dealing with other people. Dealing with other people having an issue with you, or dealing with two people having an issue with themselves?
Either, both.
Okay.
Both. So there's one called the somatic method that I really wasn't, I didn't know it was technically called that. And you all can look it up, Google it, somatic method. But that's not the method that I have used. I've actually used a different style, and it's called the Thomas Kilmann style. So, or model, that's what it's called. So, anyway, that's what I'll go through that in just a second. But anyway, I want to talk to you first though, Matt, and let's talk about, so if you have a conflict with another person, what is your first go-to? Does it depend on the subject matter, or does it depend on the person, or what does it depend on?
If I could, can we take this a step before that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So as someone who is public on the internet, I have sort of these frameworks that I do that ensures conflict resolution is likely never going to be needed. So this is a how to conduct yourself so conflicts won't likely occur. Okay? Can we
Right.
go there? All right.
Right.
So
Yes.
my strategy for being online is to come at this with a framework of kindness. You never want to go at someone or something maliciously or with ill intentions, with ill will behind you. I mean, that's just not the type of person I am. I
No.
am a very kind person by nature.
Yes.
Next, I always try and speak about topics that I'm familiar with. If you
Okay.
start speaking about things that you haven't thought through, not completely, but you just shouldn't go there. Like I was on a live stream and someone asked the panel, and I was part of the panel, what they thought
Mhm.
of capital punishment and the death penalty. And I'm like, yeah,
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about that. And someone's like, Matt, I thought you were tough. I thought you'd talk about anything. And I'm blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I do have opinions, but this is a complex issue. There isn't really any one right answer. And I haven't really thought it through very much. So what good does it do me to weigh in on this issue when I haven't completely explored that topic ahead of time? So I'm just like, nah, I'll nope out of this. Not because I'm for or against. I'm not making the position. I'm just like, will not confirm nor deny. So sometimes like that work. If you're not well versed, just don't go there. And
Right.
then the last
Right.
thing is never try and be something you're not, or more accurately, never try and come off having expertise you don't have. Like everything I do across my empire of YouTube channels and now Facebook pages for some ungodly reason.
Oh
um,
my goodness, you went to the Facebook?
oh,
Oh,
it's a whole thing.
uh-oh.
I'll tell you about it then. But I I always come at it where like I'm going through this journey of figuring it out.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I am telling you what I know. I never make the claim and I try never to insinuate that I am the end all be all of the topic that I'm talking about. I'm like, here's a feature. This is what I like about it. This is how it can help you. Like, but I don't speak above that authority. So, um,
Right.
I do have expertise across a lot of different topics. Web
Right, and
development,
so
graphic
I like what
design.
you said. I mean, and I see Nora just said, "Don't fake it till you make it," and that's the truth. If I that's where ego comes in, right? So if you wanted to seem like you knew about everything and you didn't want to be wrong, yes, of course you're going to be that person that's going to weigh in on every topic and situation. But you took the high road and saying, "Hey, that's not my expertise. That's not,
Yeah.
where I feel comfortable going." And sometimes that's just it, is do you know when to back off or go towards something? I mean, it's really, intuitively, knowing when to say something, when not to, when to understand that there's a miscommunication, a misunderstanding. Sometimes people don't listen. They need
Well,
to listen.
I can
And that
speak to that
and
too.
like you said, be kind. And that's kind of where I be kind and listened, because most of the time our conflicts at the base of it is because we're not listening to the other person.
And I
And that
mean, if the
and
other
they
person is making valid points, then listen. If they're spewing nonsense, then I don't listen to them. I don't waste my
right.
time. Now,
Well, well, and most people that want to get upset, say they use expletives, right? A lot of people, their go-to is an expletive, right? So usually that person is the one that says, "I'm not being heard." So
Okay,
I'm going to do an expletive so you listen to me.
all
I mean,
right,
it's really
Sandy.
in essence them, going in that direction.
Okay,
And
you're dropping, you're touching on a lot of topics, and I feel like I got so much to provide here. Okay,
well, go ahead.
all
Okay.
right. So
Okay. So
you
I do
mentioned
1, 2, 3.
you mentioned when do you jump in? Okay, and come back to the
Mhm.
expletives. Don't let me forget that because I will forget.
I will. I will.
The jumping in. When do you jump in? Here's Okay, so we talked about how to conduct yourself so things won't likely happen. And now, people are on Facebook too. Oh, that's cool. All right. And so now I want to hit that topic where when do you jump in? Here's the thing I try and do. If it's even worth jumping in, and we could talk, or we're talking about that, always do it in public.
Yeah.
Always conflict resolution with the largest possible audience. That's what I
Okay.
recommend. Okay.
Okay.
And then if should you do a conflict resolution? Well, that depends. That did someone say something to me in private or in a crowd of people I don't know? I mean,
Right.
that it puts very little weight on me. Like, I don't care. I mean, I ignore haters. So it's like that has no ramifications on me. Like, so you think something horrible of me? What do
Right.
I care? We're
Right.
here and we're here at a restaurant, or we're here at a fair or a park or at a ball game, and some jerk says something to me. I'm just like, who
Right.
cares? Who cares what that person
Right.
thinks?
Right.
Now,
That's being reactive. Like you're what you're saying is you're just not going to you're just not going to be reactive to
it's
it.
not even
No
worth my time.
reaction is still, is
It,
avoidant. And that's
It doesn't matter. People see, here's the other thing. I could give a flip what some rando that I don't even know that I met out in public thinks of me. I really could care less. I couldn't care less. Now, if someone says something about me that's not true and it's in public, like a comment on a video
mhm.
or a chat in a live stream, then that needs to be dealt with,
Oh yes.
because you can't let falsehoods be out there for others to see. So
That's true. That's true. And I don't ever on my live stream, if there's anything like that, what we call is a troll, right? Is we don't engage. So non-engagement is key. Like you said, I would say being kind, not engaging. But if there has to be conflict resolution, what
if
where
a
do you
troll says something bad about you or
oh, I
myself
trolls
in
don't
a
care.
public comment,
Yeah.
we're going to ban first of all, if it's a live stream, you got to insta ban, but
Yeah.
you can't let it hang out there like
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
false
I
statement.
think the audience doesn't realize we do have controls over that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
if you're gonna say something negative and not, you're banned,
yeah. So here's so that's my response to if you should engage, and then part of it was how you engage, and
how
it
you
should
engage.
always
Right.
always be in front of an audience. I
Well,
have I
and so I went in the direction of expletives. When people get loud and use expletives, what do you think's going on there, and how do you handle that?
Okay. First of all, I could care less what's going on with people who use expletives. Doesn't
Okay?
phase me. I don't care why. The why, who cares? I do not use expletives when I'm conflict resolutioning. What do we call this? When I'm arguing, I guess we call it arguing, or proving my point, or having a discussion. You never, you never do something that someone can jump on and have that be part of the conversation. You need to stay on topic. That's how you resolve conflicts. You So if I were to use an expletive, oh my gosh, you're swearing. What kind of person are you? It's like, okay, now that's the thing we're talking about, not the awful
Well,
thing you
right.
lobbied against
That
me. So
that's where the
never,
person will go to.
yeah. So,
Absolutely. If they
so
don't wanna talk about the argument and they
yeah.
don't wanna lose the argument, that's
Nope.
where
You
they'll go
you
to.
keep them on
Right.
topic. You never sweat. You never attack someone's physical attributes like I ever would ever in my life. Of course, I would not. But that's not what you want to do. Like, oh, you're. I don't even want to. You never do that, because again, that could be
Right.
used to take over the conversation and further slander yourself. Further get
Right.
slander thrown at yourself. And I've seen a lot of these things where, like, I posted a meme, and it was, I forget what it was. It was something like, if you're failing, work harder, or it was something like that. And I'm like, listen, people of YouTube, like, this is your mindset. Do more of this. Like, if something's not working, double down and bust your butt. Like, that was sort of
Yes.
the message. And someone said,
Yes.
yeah, I advise against that. That could lead to toxic narcissism. And I'm like, first of all, it's like, sources, please. Like, and then I thought the tactic was good. All you have to do is put a horrible adjective in front of something, and then it sounds like you know what you're talking about. Oh, it's toxic something. I don't want toxic anything. I was like, look, I am trying to help people, and then you are countering the message. And then the response was, oh, well, I was just commenting on the language, and it turned into this English type of a lesson. And I'm like, I don't care about the English aspect. Go to an English blog. I'm here on my YouTube group talking about YouTube principles, and then you're countering what I'm putting out there. That is a negative thing. He wouldn't stay on topic. Like, he tried to shift it into an English exercise. I'm like, stop. Just, you're wrong and I'm right. Anyway, so keep it on topic. I didn't say that last part.
I'm not sure that I'm gonna get to my slides, because I do have PowerPoint slides. Anyway,
I
because
could
that's
run
how
this
the
whole
way I
show, I
operate.
swear.
But that would be called an assertive style, right? So an assertive style of
No,
conflict resolution, like
no, it's not being bullied style is what it is. I'm like,
yes, but
you're you're
but
you're
there
you're
are
not going to
some
drop a
people
term
that
like toxic. What was it? Toxic
narcissism.
narcissism,
Mhm.
and then to try and invalidate the whole point. Like,
Well,
you
that
just
that
drop.
term that
Wait,
term is used so much
you,
at this point.
you can't just describe something and then say I win. But that
So I'm
that was.
curious about Monty's comment here. What is that about?
Yes, I was from 2005 to 2012. I was an elected official on the local school district. So the
Oh,
position school
okay.
director is typically called school board. It's sort of like the lowest public office you can have, and it's zero pay, by the way.
Were
But
you aspiring to go higher?
no,
No,
no, I never had
because
any.
people usually start there to go to the
Yeah,
next.
yeah, but
Yeah, no.
once you get in and you see how these institutions are actually run, they're pretty ill put together.
So
It's
do
like,
they need my training on conflict resolution?
well, so he was talking about that, and I talked about how there's 2 school board meetings a month, and the public shows up to these meetings, and you have
Right.
to run your meeting, and as a director, you have to call motions. You have to state your position. You have to say why you don't think something would work or why something would work. And there was a lot of public speaking. And I
Right.
brought that up in my earlier live stream today over on wave.video's YouTube channel. And Monty was talking about that. And he said, what, pros or cons? Um, you know,
Yeah.
the pro is I actually got to do something good in this world. I was no surprise, a champion of technology, and I laid the groundwork. Now, it didn't happen when I was in office, but a lot of the
Mhm.
stuff I did up to that point really helped. And I stayed on as a parent rep on the technology committee for 5 years after I was off the board. But anyway, 1 laptop per child. So That was sort of
Oh, that's great.
something that
So
happened
you
where
helped with the virtual, really a first piece of the virtual learning. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
this was years before the year that shall not be named.
Yeah, yeah, then
But
yeah,
and they wanted to
years.
give iPads to the kindergarten kids. I was like, no, they need to have the Chromebooks. But the fingers are better for the touchscreen. I'm like, no, no, it needs to be Chromebooks. Anyway,
Oh,
digress.
Rich is making a joke there. So, nice joke. Did you see it?
Yeah,
So,
well, woodworking. Yeah, I have a woodworking
okay.
channel. So,
Sorry, friends. Asking any conflict resolution examples from that experience. Okay, so he wants to know
yeah, yeah.
in
Oh
the
my
school.
God.
Yes, with parents getting up there. Mm,
Here's the
okay.
thing: when you're a school director, you need to make a decision, and you need to vote on motions that come up. You will always anger half the population, no matter what it is. You cannot win. You change the bus routes, half the people love the new route, half the people hate it. Like,
Right.
so you need to have this ignore haters
Right. Right.
mentality, because there's no way to be a fence sitter.
You don't
It,
win.
no, no, you can't
It's
win.
not a
And
win.
my position always was, whatever's good for the student, I'm down, because the students need an advocate. The advocate for the student is the elected school board. The administrators, they have the lawyers, the district has a lawyer, the vendors that come in have lawyer. I mean, everyone is all the constituents are well represented except the students. So if it worked for the students, I did. And I would always speak my mind too. People are like,
Yes.
Matt, stop. The press is here. You can't talk like. I'm like, I don't care what people think. This is what I think. This is why I think it's wrong. This is what I think we should do. And the reporter's writing down everything. You know what? You don't want to re-vote me in for office? Don't vote for me. This is what I'm thinking. And that was my position with it. But
Well,
anyway,
you sound like you're just more like, yeah, yeah. Okay, so Enda Trading. Who is Enda Trading? I'm not sure who that
he's
is.
awesome.
Yeah. He said he lived in Thailand and found the Eastern culture so much more positive. Is it because they come from more of a peaceful area? I mean, what's the difference? Why do you think that they are happier? I'm just curious to know why you think they're happier than over here in the west part. Let's see. Still here.
I did.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello,
So
Jaden. So conflict resolution. So what I've always found is, again, going back, is that I feel like people are misunderstood because they don't communicate well. And I think communication is key. And that's really what it comes under, conflict resolution. I did like the code greens I was telling you about, and the first one I ever did was my first week on the job. And I was like, what's it? They're like, Sandy, you got to go, it's a code green. And all it was is that there was just a disagreement in a treatment plan for the patient,
yeah,
and
but again,
it was
that's party A having a problem with party B, and you
right.
trying to
And
solve it.
so party C had to be brought in just to calm down party B, and
Well, good
to
on you
get
for
party
having
A
that.
out of the room and be able to resolve,
I could never
you
do
know,
that job. Like,
their
why would
concerns.
I care that party A has a problem with party B? I'm like, figure it out
Well,
yourself.
it was kind of part of, well, there's a bottom line to it too, of course, because it's a patient. I was in a healthcare situation. So it was about keeping uh, your physician happy and keeping your patient happy.
You
So,
know,
I mean, that's really what it came down
I've been
to.
in management positions, and um, I found if you set the expectations, the staff will follow, and what you measure gets reported, and what gets reported gets repeated. So if anything isn't going your way, start
Mm,
tracking it, and whatever's
yes.
tracked will get the attention and get and those
Well,
two.
and that comes from a procedural place. Like, if you have procedures and in place, that you're to follow, And if you veer off of that and you don't follow that, that's when you're most likely going to have something happen. And so to mitigate that, you need to have certain boundaries set and certain procedures in place.
But
Including, the person being written up or whatever needs to happen. I've had it happen many times in my career with
yeah.
the conflict resolution. And the
Well,
thing is that it can come down to your own job. If you're the mediator, sometimes it falls back on you, believe it or not,
okay.
if you don't do it correctly. Like if you don't resolve that situation between A and B and you're C and you don't do that correctly, your job's on the line. So,
Well, no,
I
no, no,
mean,
no,
that's
no,
where
no,
it
no, no, no,
becomes
no.
a thing.
Okay.
Huh?
Let me chime in here.
Go
So
ahead.
in my two worlds, because I managed the school district with
Right.
8 other directors as a board of 9, and
Uh-huh.
that is very rule based. As a matter of fact, they have something called the board policies, and board
Mhm.
policies are what people need to follow. No board member can go to an employee and say, do this. The only employee the board member can have a give direction to is the superintendent, and then the superintendent, everyone else reports to the superintendent. So board policy, and that's very rule based. If this, then that. Da, 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 da. But when I was managing the art studio, I had 35 people reporting to me at one point. So I'm no spring chicken to this. Um, it was a very different tactic. It was, these are the outcomes we'd never want to happen.
Right.
Get your job done. And it's an at-will employment. I could fire you for whatever reason you want, and you could walk out immediately for whatever you want. That's at-will employment in the United States. So it was never, where's the rule book? I'm like, the rule book is you're out. If it came to that. Like here's an example. We had a new employee fresh out of college. So college is very rule based. Just like I said, I govern the school district. It was a K-12 school,
Mhm.
but colleges are very rule based. And he's like, Matt, what's the rule on having a drink near the computer monitor and keyboard and the computer tower? I'm like, there is no rule. This is the workplace. I'm like, if you damage the equipment, you're fired. You can make your own decisions. I wasn't mean about it, but I'm like, that's the framework of how we run things here. If you want to have a drink next to your computer, go for it. If you blow up the computer, you're fired. So have it there, but make sure nothing happens to it because you're responsible for it. And that was how I led my people. And whenever there were problems, like this one person would always say, I don't think I took off November the 5th. I think you need to pay me. I think I have one extra vacation day. And it would always go to the accountant, and the accountant would look back through all the stuff. And because this was
Right.
back, in the 90s when
Uh-huh.
things weren't as zippity as they are now. And then some of the time, not all, like 20% of the time, like, I can't find that she had that off. And she would squeeze out that little extra. I was like, I know. I have a feeling that you're squeezing out extra vacation days. So then I used to say every vacation check would get hand delivered because there was no direct deposit at the time. And then you had to sign. If that check contained a vacation day, you had to sign this extra paper that it was a vacation day. And then
Right.
she did that for a while, and then she pulled it again. I was like, well, it was a brand new year, and I've been doing this for a while. I'm like, well, which one of these that you signed is not a valid day that you
Oh,
think is really? She had her signature. She sat back down. What you got to measure, whatever's measured is repeated. So it
right.
never happened. It never happened to me.
So conflict resolution. Well, how do you feel that body language plays into that sometimes? What like some people have a, I don't know what you would call it, where they have a scowl all the time, or then there's the other person that always has the smile, and that can actually cause conflicts. I mean,
Well,
what do you think
yeah,
about that?
I think that body language is important. I think people naturally pick up on body language. I don't think anyone is bad at picking up body language.
Right.
But It's about the facts.
I
The
mean, I know
fact
I've felt conflict when somebody's entered the room. I could feel their
yeah.
emotions, but maybe
Yeah.
that's because of my personality type, right?
I
It
mean,
doesn't personality type or and all those things kind of fall into that sometimes.
if people win an argument, for lack of a better word, are we calling it? What are we
Mhm.
calling it? If people win the conflict resolution? Oh no. Hold on a second. There's something wrong with my dog.
Oh, no.
Huh. I might have to deal with that. I think
Okay.
she's okay. What were we saying here? Sorry about that. So, body.
Body
Yeah, if
language.
you have to win an argument by body language, by
Well, no,
intimidation.
I'm not saying winning an argument. I'm just
Yeah.
saying conflict can happen when somebody enters the room and they and other people pick up on if they're in a bad mood,
Well,
uh I don't know if you've seen that happen. I have. I've seen that happen. The person came in and didn't give the attention that was needed. Is everything okay?
I think so. Sorry about this.
It's okay.
I mean, my loved ones are important to me, of course.
Absolutely, especially dogs too. They're your
Yeah.
family. Do you need
Yeah.
me to let you go?
No, I think I'm okay. So,
Okay. All right.
yeah, I mean, some people have a foreboding aura around them. It just is what it is. I mean, so what if they do? What does it matter?
Thanks for joining us, whoever that is.
No, I don't.
And so Jason was wondering where I was going with it, I guess, with between relationship workplaces. I was just doing in a general way of conflict resolution. There are different ways to handle it, obviously, whether it be the workplace or personal. Conflict resolution personally, communication, I think is the key, right? I mean, the answer to conflict resolution is not having to be right all the time, and like he said in the very beginning, being kind, coming at a being kind and peaceful place and not having to be right.
If you're not
And
correct, then
huh?
you
Hmm.
state that. Like, you
Right.
never try and bulldoze someone when you're not correct. If you did something wrong, you should come forward and say you did something wrong. That's the mature thing to do.
Yeah.
But
Michael said some people have resting bitch face, and I think that's what I
yeah,
was
so,
talking
yeah,
about.
I guess my comments are yes, some people do have mannerisms. Some people do
They
cause
do, and they think
anxiety.
that people are,
But
angry all the time,
so
like, they
what?
come in and they can feel their mood, and it does affect, especially in the workplace. It does
Well,
affect the work well,
it
it
can
does at home
affect,
too.
but the point is, what do you do about it? You resolve conflict. That
Thanks,
has
Rich.
nothing to do with if there's conflict.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
there's everything I mentioned is exactly the same whether someone has those features or those mannerisms or not.
right, right.
I don't back
But you
down.
and I are different personality types, so I might take it a different way, right?
What-
I
But
and different personality
it
types
doesn't matter how
deal
you
with
take it.
conflict different ways.
It matters righting the wrong people have levied upon you. Like, if someone accuses you of something, you've got to deal
Right.
with that, whether they have a foreboding personality or
Yes,
not.
like Matt saying that he didn't believe me.
I was like, it was after the
He
third
didn't
time I
believe
asked you
me.
to give me that URL 3 times and you didn't do it. I'm like,
I gave him my StreamYard link. I gave him the page link.
the page is not the video link. You
See,
can't.
I'm going back. See, certain personality types go back to the original disagreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
In conflict resolution, I don't know if you've dealt with that before, where you thought you were over the situation, you were over the argument, you
no,
were
no,
over the
you gotta
conflict, and they brought it back up. That's
right.
what I was getting to, by the way.
If they bring it back up, I mean, whatever. It's done.
What do
You
you
should
say?
resolve it. You should resolve it. And here's another thing. When you're when you have an issue with someone,
Mhm.
you let them talk. They usually bury themselves with what they're actually saying. So actually shutting up is a good thing in conflict resolution. But you can't let them stray off topic. See, a lot of people will take this, for example. I was on a stream and someone said something horrible in my direction, which wasn't true. Okay. But they saw my behavior. They leapt to a conclusion and they were attacking that conclusion, attributing it to me. And I'm like,
Oh,
that doesn't work, because what they were saying may have been true. I didn't know if it was true, but it probably was true. But they leapt to the conclusion, and then they were saying I was a horrible person because of the conclusion that they, in their own mind, served,
right.
drew up. And
I
then
call
it was,
that projecting. That's
and then it was on
projecting.
me
Mm-hmm.
to
They're
prove a negative.
projecting. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm proving I'm not that thing. Like that doesn't fly. Like you
Right.
can't allow that framework to
No, I
exist.
don't allow that. If I have to defend myself on a projected accusation, I step back and go, okay,
Well, no, what you
okay,
do,
you
here's
you
the
know,
thing.
you think you have your opinion, that's fine, okay, and finishing the conversation.
No, that's not what you should do.
Well,
I have a
that's how
conflict
I
with
handle
you
it.
because that's wrong. You just said something wrong, Sandy. No, you don't say that's your opinion. What you do is you
No,
say,
I usually do the avoidant. I do the shut it down and don't acknowledge it. I
that's
don't
even
engage
worse.
it.
That's doubly wrong.
It's doubly wrong.
Now
Ooh,
you're
are we
making me
gonna?
mad.
Yeah, now we're getting into it.
All right. So someone levies something incorrect about you. What you do
Oh, so
say,
they accused you like an accusation. They
yeah, well,
weren't just
here's what happened.
implying it.
Okay. They said that when a certain topic comes up, I will only talk about it a short amount of time, or I will change the subject. And therefore, I am a hater against that topic.
Oh,
That was the argument that they were making against
okay.
me.
That's not what I was thinking you were
And
talking about. Right.
you can't ignore that. You can't say
No.
you're entitled to your opinion where you just accused me of something awful, and that, like, no. And it was in public. You got to address it. Now,
So how did you handle that? I mean, what did you
okay,
say? I mean,
here's what you do.
Mhm.
You don't say, no, I never did that,
Mhm.
because I probably did do it. I probably did change the subject, or I probably
Okay.
did not speak long enough. See, that was the dig. Oh, I gave my opinion positively on the topic, but I didn't say it as long as you would want me. And that's a detriment. Like, that was sort of behind what was being
Yeah.
said. But anyway, I'm like, so what you do is you say, I'm not saying you don't feel that way. I'm not saying I never did that. You jump to that conclusion, and your conclusion is 100% wrong. And you just saying because I did this equals that does not mean you're right. You have failed to prove that I am that horrible thing.
Well, just like we
then
just did. Like, I
you
didn't know
did.
what you were talking about.
Yeah.
You were general. So, again, not knowing all the pieces and being misunderstood or having miscommunication does lead people to jump to conclusions. And that is where people go wrong, is when they jump to a conclusion.
But you see, that was the tactic. It was like, I saw you do this, and I probably did. But now here's the thing. You can change the subject for many positive reasons. I could change a subject because maybe my co-hosts have said everything that I would have said. I just didn't have anything else to contribute. Or, again, I did contribute, but I didn't contribute long enough for the person, which was, I think, really a stretch. Or there could be a many positive reasons for me doing it. It's not because I'm a hater of the thing, but that's where they were going with it. And then they expected me to prove a negative. You can never, whenever you're in an argument trying to prove you're not something, it comes off as cringy. There's nothing you can say that isn't
Yeah.
cringy. You
Right.
can't do it. Oh, I'm
Cringy.
not a hater
Yes.
because I'm this and I'm that. And oh, this, remember, I do this instance and I do that instance. See, that proves I'm not. And it never sits well. It's always cringy. So you got to say, I believe you think that way. I'm not saying I didn't do that one action of changing the subject, but your conclusion is absolutely wrong. And then shut it down. See, then it's on them. They've got to prove it. They're making the
Right.
accusation.
So
They
did
need to
it
come
so
forward.
did it all end okay? It did? Good.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah? No?
this was a situation where I thought the person may have had, it was someone I didn't know, and I thought they may have had some anxiety issues. And if I really put the screws to this person, I thought there might be like
Ramifications.
issues on that type of thing. But I did make the statement, and then, because that's all they had.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you changed the subject, therefore you're a hater.
Uh,
Prove to me you're not a
right.
hater." I'm like, "No, you jump to
Right.
conclusions. You are 100% wrong. The co-host knows me. The
Right.
co-host has seen me in public, in real life, knows me very well.
Yeah.
Are you saying the co-host hangs around with horrible people like that?" So it's almost
Right.
like she was putting aspersions on the host of the show in addition to me. So
Oh,
I
wow.
did
That
all of
sounds
these.
messy. Right.
So
So
all of these.
so did you take it offline or
We invited
did
her on the show.
you Oh,
Came
okay.
on the show.
Right. Good.
And then she was like, well, you often don't bring up this other. It was about straight people and gay people.
Okay.
And I have a
Right.
wedding ring. I'm married
Right.
to a woman, which is very public. So
Right.
I'm like, well, I talk about what I know. I talk about gay and lesbians
Right.
all the I don't have a problem with that. And
Right.
but I'm sharing my experience with the world. If you want to have that voice, come on the show and have that voice.
So Rich is in your corner. He said you handled it well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But
yeah.
the overall point is, you if they say this action means you're this horrible thing, you don't deny the action. You don't say, well, prove I did that, because they might have proof. And remember I said I probably did it, but I didn't know. I didn't know for sure. So you have
Right.
to go at it like, yeah, I did it. But the issue
Right.
was leaping to the conclusion and then hammering me on that conclusion and then asking me to prove I'm not that thing. That doesn't fly.
Right. Monty says not that there's anything wrong with that. Exactly. But see, that is it. It's just that's where it comes in. Let's discuss it. So you handle it so well that you had her on the show. I think that's great that you
We had her on
discussed
the
it.
show, and then she was like, well, I don't want to go there
That's right.
because, I'm like, all right, so,
Yeah.
and then I suspected that she had other
Okay.
issues, and if I would really use her own words against her and get her to actually come up with something valid beyond you changed the subject, therefore you're horrible. Like, she would have had enough. She would have looked like so stupid. And
Yeah.
I chose not to really squeeze the issue because I thought she had some mental
Well,
issue,
right.
like
And that's you
legitimate,
jumping
like
to
not just. I think there was some manic, or I think there was more to that person. So I really didn't do that. But I've got other examples too. I've got some crazy examples.
Well, I worked in fast food, so I learned how to do conflict resolution really early at the drive-through.
Oh
So
God.
just saying, like I wasn't always a manager, but I was always having to deal with the public. And when you deal with the public, there's some conflict resolution going on there. Like you get somebody's hamburger wrong and it's on. But you can't deny getting somebody's hamburger wrong. I mean, that's just it. I mean, so what do? You go a step further and do something extra and give them extra fries. That's what you do.
Sure.
So
Of
that's
course you
how I
do.
used to resolve that. You know,
Yeah, of
but
course you do. Like
there's
I've
always a way to resolve it, though. I mean, whether that be take the topic offline, whether that be discussing and finding out where the miscommunication is. That is if you're interested in doing that. Some people don't want to listen and they want to be right. And that's where I
that's
mean, you're
when you
never going to
keep them
win in
on
that
topic.
situation, so you just disengage. I mean, to
Yeah.
me, that's the disengagement, and say, okay, if you're not willing to discuss, communicate, and go further, I don't know. I don't know what Jason had a
People
comment, but I'm not
I have
sure
all
what he
kinds
meant.
of body language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know what the faces are for.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I
so
can't tell what the faces are anyway. Emojis I can never see on there, but um anyway, um so what about in let's talk about in a partnership, in a relationship, in a marriage. What is the best route of conflict resolution there? And we've talked about like other people, live streaming, all of that. What about in a personal relationship with children?
well, this is there's a lot of feelings with this answer because that's appropriate. you know.
Right.
Um
Because
ideally,
you're invested in a different way. I mean,
well,
in business, the bottom line is maybe your career and money. In a public forum, like you said, the school board, you're not going to be voted in, and like in different areas. But in a personal relationship, it's a different ballgame.
well, I mean, it is a different ball game. I mean, hopefully you're with someone that has a similar outlook and similar goals and different, and that was the case with me, where my wife and I are very similar on the values that we have and how we want to raise our child. And um,
So
you
you
know,
pick them to begin with in a good way. Like you pick
yeah,
the
yeah, but
person to
things do
have the
come up. I
same.
mean, you just have to
Well, yeah.
you have to listen, of course, and you've got to what's the ROI? What's the return on investment? What are the pros and cons of considering doing something differently? And if what they're suggesting would cause more harm or is just not good, then you advocate for your position and you try and make it clear why. I mean, it's always the why. It's not just the
Right.
more you're like, because I said so, then that's just bound for spiraling out of control. Like you have to
Yeah.
say, no, if we took this route, it would take 4 more years before we were able to make this investment. Or like
Mhm.
you just a lot of it has to do with a lot of the conflicts have to do with money. I'm a big believer in separate bank accounts. Do whatever the hell you want with your money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I,
And I think what you're saying, I mean, again, communication being key. And do you have to be right all the time? I mean, you know,
it's like,
really coming back with, do I have to be right in this argument or not? Or am I going to compromise this time?
we don't sweat the
Compromising.
small stuff. Like,
Yeah.
don't I Tracy works in healthcare, and I found a lot of people that work in healthcare, especially like people dealing with patients that are dealing with horrible situations, patients that pass away. It's like it puts a lot of things in perspective. It's like that's a small issue. Like we'll figure that out. So
Right.
when we do butt heads, it's usually a very big issue.
Right.
Buying a property, or I mean, really, it's like uh, dealing with. We had arguments dealing with other parents who were on the sporting team,
Oh,
which I had a huge problem with. And I let a lot of people know exactly what I had problems with. And the issue was, well, you should have just shut up. I'm like, no, I don't like what I'm seeing because you have someone in grade school and these freaking coaches would come to games that they're not coaching to other teams, that coaches from
what?
other teams would watch the game because they're talent scouting the
Mhm.
kids. And I'm like, this is a rec league. Rec leagues are for fun. They're not competitive leagues. And they're freaking 12 years old. And so like I would really go off on people, like full on shouting people in front of in the middle of the game. And just,
Yeah.
oh, you gotta be quiet. You gotta be quiet. I'm like, no, this guy's an a-hole. And this is why. And no, what they're advocating, so anyway, we would fight over that because usually the position is, Matt, you shouldn't have opened your mouth, but I can't leave injustices lie. I don't try and fix all injustices, but you can't be silent. When you see something that rubs you the wrong way,
Right.
you got to call it out. You don't have to change their mind. You don't have to start an argument, but there has to be something that you lob to the other party that says, no, I don't agree with that. And
But
it could
don't
just
you
be
think
that.
that's a personality type? I would say it's your
I think that's
personality
a
type.
good way to conduct your life because why should you gift the person who did something that irked you the benefit of not knowing what they did irked you? Like they deserve to know that put you on edge or that you don't agree
Not
with.
everybody is that bold, though. Not
But
everybody can
again,
do that.
you don't have to get into a fight. You don't have to argue about it. They could even throw expletives at you and you could just shut it down. But the point is, you got to put
Right.
the dig in. You got to at least send that to them. And then usually I'm like, oh, well, go F yourself. I'm like, all right, whatever. But they got the point. They got the, like,
Right.
again, I go back to, I don't care what you think of me. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And if they
And
want to
see
go to
that
fist,
would be the difference between, like, say, my personality type. I wouldn't do that. I would say I would observe it and I would take note of it
well,
and then I would figure out how to approach it. But maybe not even
no, no,
that
no, no, no,
time.
no, no.
See, and
You
that's
don't let
my
it linger.
personality type.
You
That's my personality type.
if
Your
you step
personality
away
type
and if you
is a
step away and come
totally
back to it
different.
later, you'll never come back to it later. And then the person who
Oh,
did
I
wrong,
have. I have.
well, you have, but you might not always. And there'll
Yeah.
be the span of time before you reach back around to it that the person would think that what they've did is acceptable. And here's another thing. Like if I'm handing cash over to
Uh-huh.
someone to pay for something, I demand standard service. I don't want my butt kissed, but like if you take a phone call when I'm handing you money and you stop taking my money to take a phone call, I got a problem with
Oh,
that
yeah.
usually.
Now I have to admit, I mean, I'm with you there. Like, I'm with you there. If it has anything to do with customer service,
Yeah.
absolutely. When it has to do with a
Believe me,
group.
I'm not an a-hole, but
Yeah.
but I just I demand standard
That's
minimum compliance stuff. Anything below that is an insult. And then like one time a cashier insulted me
they do
before I
now.
paid because
They
I
do
think
now.
we were at a toy store and my son was we had a bunch of things that we're going to purchase for my son, and then my son saw something and commented on that. I'm like, oh, that's really nice. I said to him like that, and the lady says, oh, the way you talk to your son, you're such a pushover. Like I was just going to buy it, and I was like, I took all the packages and I pushed them off the counter. Just what'd you do that for? I'm like, I heard pushover. Like, you weren't talking to me, were you? Is that how you were describing me, or did you tell me to push these items off the counter? No, like she saw me turn. Like I was like, oh, that's so nice. And we should probably get that. Oh, you're just a regular pushover, aren't you? wham, push the
Oh,
stuff off the
wow.
thing. And I'm like, were you
Gosh.
talking to me? Were you describing me that way? How is that not an insult? Tell me how that is. And people are starting to look, and the wife's like, Matt, you need to be quiet. I'm like, no, I'm about to pay for these items after being insulted. I was like, that isn't flying here. No way. No way. Or I go up with my cart at the big box shopping center, and the guy goes like this. I wish you wouldn't have come into my line. I was like,
Ooh.
what does that mean? He goes, well, I was standing here doing nothing, and now I got to work checking you out. I'm like, I got $500 worth of items because, it's filled to the top, and it's one of these big box. It was like Costco, but it wasn't Costco. It was one of those
Right.
things. I'm like, I got to check out,
Wow.
and I'm putting you out. You have a job here. And the managers start coming over. I'm just like, if you're taking my money,
Well, you know what they call anybody that, customer service right now is at a low. I have to
I am
admit.
great.
If you complain about anything, you're called a Karen. I was called a Karen a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh
I
my
let
goodness.
a lot of things slide in
I was like,
customer
oh,
service.
but right.
These incidents, those 3 incidents I said, or 2, like that was 20 years worth of living. Like only those things happen. I love waiters and waitresses. I love people checking me out. I'm pleasant. I'm happy. I let a lot slide. But if you flippin' insult me before you take my money, no.
So how did they
Hell
resolve
no.
that with you?
What's that?
How did they resolve that with you? I would call that conflict resolution. What did they do? Did they offer you like $10 off of anything or?
No, I walked out. I didn't buy a damn thing. And the
Oh, so
manager was
you
there. The
didn't.
manager's like, you can't talk to people like that. And we walked out. And I had 4 things on the counter, and I was about to buy my son a 5th thing that I said, oh, that's really nice. Yeah, let's get that too.
Right.
They
Right.
didn't get any from me.
Well,
Heck
then
no.
that will come to say that, that
And money, you want to change something? Money talks. If a company does something that really rubs you the wrong way,
right.
money, you cut them off. I
Yeah.
have big problems with a
Okay,
lot of different.
these people are saying, "Wow," and "Oh god." I have no idea what they're talking about now because that 20-second delay. So sorry, you guys. I
Wow.
don't know what you're saying, "Wow," and "Oh god" about.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Some
well,
companies
my
make me so
style.
mad.
Well, the last, actually, it's already. Gosh, our time is already up. But I want to show. I want to give a couple resources. So hold on one second. I'm gonna add it to the stream. The StreamYard has a cool new thing. You can actually add a PowerPoint. So what I was going to talk about, accommodating, compromising, competing, you guys can go look at that later. But I wanted to show my resources. If you want to know what about a somatic style of resolution is, there's a podcast. Go look at him. Here's some books for you to check out. I've read 2 of them. Dealing with people you can't stand. That kind of says it all. And then the Energy Bus. Those are the 2 I know that are well, and the Mediator's Handbook. Those 3 I know. The other 2 are highly recommended. If you have conflict that you need to figure out how to resolve, I suggest those resources. And so I thank you guys for joining me. And Matt, I'm glad that we resolved our conflict from the very beginning of this show. And I hope we continue to.
I love you, Sandy. You're the best.
Love you
And
too, Matt.
I did not, we have a good
Nah,
rapport,
he
you and
said, I
I.
don't believe you. And I went, oh, he doesn't believe me. I've
It's
never
like,
given him a reason not to believe me. What?
prove
So,
it. Show me that URL. Gosh darn it.
he goes, if I have to ask you for that URL, I'm like, what URL? What's he talking about? So again, it was communication because I didn't understand. I read quickly what I thought he wanted. I tried to send him what I thought he wanted, and he did that. It wasn't it. So what he did was he went a step further and showed me how to change what it was that he needed from me.
And why.
And so I thought
The
that
why
was
was
great.
important. I always provide the why.
You were
otherwise, it
amazing.
just sounds like do this, do this, do that, which is kind of
Yes, and I
cringy.
appreciated that very much because now you can all see our upcoming live streams on Sash Coach and Awakening. So I thank you, Matt, for that important information. Please check out his website because he's got tons of things that he does. Oh my goodness. He's got woodworking, piano. I mean, he's got it all covered.
I'm all
Look at
over the
that.
interwebs.
I know. I remember when. I remember when you
Oh,
were just learning it. Hey,
can I
where's your light up one? Do you
can
still
I
have
can
the
I
light
leave
up
you
one?
with something funny?
Yes.
All right. I said that I'm a nice guy, and I am. And I've been a nice guy my entire life. And sadly, I am saddened that the world we live in, niceness often relates to weakness. And when that
Oh,
person insulted me at the
right.
cash register and said I was a pushover, that was because I was being super nice to my son. Niceness can be perceived as weakness. So I had to learn how to not be nice, not because I wanted to implement anything. I just wanted to understand the subject matter. So I bought a book that I think is the opposite of everything we've talked about. And I want to share that book with you. Are you
All
ready?
right. Yes.
Assholeology. This
If
is
you want
the
to,
science behind getting your way and getting away with it. So this
oh
book
my goodness.
is how to be a horrible person and pull it off. Not that I wanted to implement any of those things, but I wanted to understand how horrible people think and act so I could have strategies to combat it. So
Right. And that
literally,
that book dealing with people you can't stand that has the way how to handle those people in it
interesting.
as well.
But seriously, I have been super nice my entire life, and it has come back to bite me in the butt, which is a sad state of affairs. But that's the world we live in. People
Right.
are always trying to get a leg up. People are always looking for weakness. They're always trying to eke out more than they deserve, and they attack the nice person. That's
Well,
why that person was so shocked when I flipped. Like I was no
yeah.
longer nice when I was dealing with
Yeah.
that person who insulted me, and they didn't think that I could go there because of what they saw me do a split second earlier. See,
Well,
people make
I
splits.
always I try to come at things with the kindness and the peace and,
Yeah,
I try to resolve stuff. So,
mm,
I am different and it's okay. We're different. And
we're
because we've
different.
had different ways to deal with things. So,
I
anyway,
hope
and
this was helpful. Did
that
I do a
shows you
good job for
something.
you? I hope I didn't run off the show with you, run the show off the
Oh
rails
my
for you.
goodness. Oh, I don't know. Well, Monty's scared. I'm just gonna
Monty's
say.
great.
Monty said he's scared.
Come on now, Monty. We love you too much, brother.
Don't worry. So
Thank you,
anyway,
Sandy.
thank you guys
Thank
all for
you.
joining and sticking in here and listening to us going. I see he's got the happy face. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate you being on the show tonight, and I appreciate you all. You all have a wonderful evening and week, and take care. And I will catch you next time.
Hi, everyone.